Is that satellite sensor? Oh.
Yeah.
Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order. My name is Tanya Cook. I'm chairperson of the Metropolitan Utilities District Board of Directors, and I'd like to welcome you all to the committee meetings this morning, December 6th, 2023. This meeting is being live streamed from the boardroom at the M.U.D headquarters building located at 7350 World Communications Drive, and a recording of this meeting will be uploaded to the M.U.D website after the meeting's conclusion. Safety briefing. I'd like to invite Safety Manager Shane Dawkin to provide a briefing regarding protocol for all individuals in attendance at the board meeting today in the event of an emergency.
Good morning, Shane Dawkin, Safety Manager. We are currently located at 7350 World Communications Drive at our M.U.D headquarters facility on the first floor in our boardroom. Please note there are two exits out of this room. The first exit is located at the back, which is likely the door that you made entrance into this room today. The second exit is located at the door to my right. If you proceed out the door to my right, head down the hallway on your right, you'll find the closest fire extinguisher, first aid kit, AED, and stop the bleed kit in case of an emergency. With that in mind, can I get a show of hands for all individuals that are currently CPR and AED certified? That's great, thanks. If there were a medical emergency in this room for any reason today, the security staff at the front desk would contact 911 and then escort EMS services into this room to help resolve the matter. If we needed to evacuate this building for any reason today, we would proceed out the door to my right, take two left-hand turns, head over to the first floor of the parking garage for accountability. And that concludes today's safety briefing. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call.
Sidzik.
Here.
McGowan.
Here.
Howard.
Here.
Kavanaugh.
Here.
Begley.
Here.
Cook.
Here.
Friend.
Here.
I would like to advise all those in attendance that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is available on the wall at the back of the boardroom. Construction and Operations, Interim Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer, Andy Melville, will now review the proposed capital expenditures. Morning.
Good morning. Andy Melville, Interim Senior Vice President, Chief Operations Officer. I'll be reviewing the capital expenditure letter behind tab 5. This month, there are two items under system improvements and two under buildings, plants, and equipment. I'll be speaking to one in each of these categories this morning. The first item under buildings, plants, and equipment, labeled number 1, request approval for $231,000 to rebuild a traveling intake screen at the Florence Water Production Facility. You may remember a similar request which was approved at the April board meeting to rebuild one of the 5 traveling screens. You can see a picture of the screen being removed. 4 traveling screens are in service at one time, and we have 1 spare. Our preventive maintenance program schedules 1 screen for rebuild each year on a 6-year cycle. The screen approved for rebuild in April is complete and ready to be delivered and installed. We are requesting for the 2024 rebuild to coincide with the delivery of the 2023 rebuild for efficiency. That way we can reuse or use the same crane and delivery trucks. The truck that will deliver the screen can also return the screen that needs to be rebuilt. The process for rebuilding includes cleaning, refurbishing the baskets, and applying a anti-foulant coating to prevent zebra mussels. And you'll see on the next picture what happens when we don't have that coating. Those can enter into some of the pumps and cause damage and cause some treatment issues as well. It's been very successful with the other screens that we've applied the anti-foulant coating to, and you can see it in this picture. The blue coating is what that is. Atlas SSI, our vendor, was selected to complete the work following a competitive bidding process in April and has agreed to renew the 2024 screen at that same price. The second item we'll review is a relocation project for the Omaha Streetcar project on the top of page 2. This is listed as number 1, item number 1 in that group. It is project number R2266 for a total project cost of $427,400, which is reimbursable. This work is required to eliminate conflicts on the City of Omaha streetcar project. This phase will be the second of 8 gas relocation projects along the currently proposed streetcar route. This work is anticipated to start in January 2024 and will be constructed by M.U.D crews. The district and the City of Omaha agreed to limit the gas and water infrastructure costs related to the streetcar to $7.6 million. Engineering has identified gas and water infrastructure replacement, which will be accounted for under our infrastructure replacement programs. This segment of gas work related to the streetcar is not part of the infrastructure replacement program, therefore is reimbursable by the city. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Interim Director of Plant Engineering, Adam Gartner, will review the acceptance of contracts and payment of final estimates.
Good morning, Adam Gartner, Interim Director of Plant Engineering. I will actually be presenting the next 2 agenda items. First, agenda item 6. There are 4 projects on this month's finals letter, 2 water development projects, 1 facilities project to replace some roofs at district pump stations, and the construction of the new West Dodge pump station. I was going to highlight a couple different projects. First is item A on the letter. This was a facilities project to replace roofs at 3 district repump stations. This project is part of the ongoing effort to assess the condition and recommend, assess the condition of district roofs and recommend maintenance in a planned schedule. There was a small increase in the contract amount due to 2 small change orders. Next item I was going to highlight is item B. This is the construction of the new West Dodge pump station. The construction of this facility started in May of 2022 and was just recently completed. The new pump station will provide greater reliability to provide water into pressure zone 3 into the northwest metro area. Combined with the transmission main, the land purchase, and the construction of the pump station, the total investment was about $13.5 million. We did just celebrate the opening of the station with a ribbon cutting ceremony a few weeks ago. Certainly represents a lot of hard work across the district, a lot of different people involved. There were a number of previously approved change orders on this project that did increase the contract amount to about 5.5%. In general, these items were requests by the district to enhance the maintenance and operation of the station for the long term. Last item I was going to highlight on this month's letter is item D. This is a water development project at 180th and State Street. There was a 10% deduct. We switched from ductile to PVC due to long lead times noted on the ductile iron. Any questions on this month's finals letter before I switch to agenda item number 7? All right, so on tab 7, this is a recommendation to renew a water infrastructure contract partnership with Murphy Pipeline. Management is recommending an additional 1-year extension. Murphy did complete the first district project in 2022, and we completed 3 additional projects in 2023. This year, using Murphy, we were able to abandon about 3.5 miles of cast iron water main. Still waiting on final costs in 2022, but it looks like we're going to be right out about $1.3 million per mile of abandonment. Contracted pipe bursting certainly continues to be an economical solution for certain water IR project areas. This Murphy partnership is part of the district's program to replace critical water infrastructure. With the approval of this request, management is asking that the president be authorized to enter in contracts with Murphy Pipeline in 2024. Again, as similar to past years, each contract would be contingent upon negotiating acceptable pricing. Again, similar to last year's, corresponding CNAs for this work will be submitted at the January 2024 board meeting.
Adam, where are they located out of? I know it says they're out of state. Where are they located out of?
Murphy Pipeline is located in Jacksonville, Florida.
Thank you.
Vice President of Procurement and Enterprise Services, John Zellers, will now review the bids on materials and contracts.
Good morning. John Zellers, Vice President, Procurement and Enterprise Services. Bids on materials and contracts may be found under tab 8. There are several items that I'd like to discuss this morning, and the first two may be found under the ratification heading on page 1. We are requesting ratification for 2 projects to paint piping in other areas in the Skyline Pump Station and 5 other pump stations that are experiencing signs of corrosion, paint chips, and failed coatings. Mongan Painting has successfully completed projects for the district in the past, and their bids were accepted to perform the work. The next 2 items may be found under the Information Technology heading on page 2. The first item is a recommendation to enter into a 5-year agreement with SAP for their next generation enterprise resource planning program, S/4HANA OnRise, to modernize the district's technology platform as part of the Digital Transformation Initiative. This is a cloud-based program managed by SAP that ensures the district is positioned to operate healthy, secure, and functional into the future. With the implementation, we plan to terminate the corresponding on-premise enterprise resource planning licenses. However, some SAP solutions will initially remain on-premise, requiring SAP S/4HANA compatible on-premise software as shown under the second item. S/4HANA OnRise will be paid through an annual payments through the 5-year term. The compatible on-premise S/4HANA software is a one-time purchase. SAP is the only provider for these items as they do not have reseller agreements for SAP Cloud Services. The next item may be found at the bottom of page 2. We accepted bids for the right-of-way improvements at CC2, in which the low bid is recommended. The board may recall approving 2 interlocal agreements with SIDs and other agencies, one last month and one in October, for cost sharing for portions of the improvements. We are recommending the low bid of approximately $1.7 million, in which the district's portion is approximately $945,000. The last item may be found on page 3. We accepted bids for a 3-year contract for building cleaning services throughout the district. Upon evaluating the bids and conducting an interview with the 2 low bidders, we are recommending the second low bid from RTG Building Services. RTG stood out by using its own employees to perform the needed services opposed to using subcontractors, having designated employees assigned only to M.U.D facilities and not other accounts, having an assigned supervisor at each M.U.D facility to assure quality control, and using geofence technology to verify arrival and departure employees performing services. In addition, RTG's references were all favorable. And that's all I plan to discuss this morning, but would be happy to answer any questions. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Services and extensions. Masania will now review the proposed main extensions.
Good morning. Masania, Vice President of Engineering. This morning, behind tab 9, we've got 3 main extensions, 1 gas and 2 water main extensions. The gas main extension includes service availability to 140 residential lots, 1 school, and 1 park. The 2 water projects include water service and fire protection to a total of 7 commercial lots. These are located in District Subdivisions 1, 2, and 7. I'd like to highlight the first 2 projects on the letter. The first project, job number GP 2777, for the Calarosa subdivision near 216th and Kansas Avenue, is a gas main extension that includes district costs of $46,495, or approximately 19% of the total project cost. The district's costs are to oversize about a quarter mile or 1,460 feet of gas mains from 2-inch to 4-inch to provide capacity for future growth. The second project I'd like to highlight, and I've got a map to help explain part of this project, WP 2075, listed as number 2 on the letter. This project includes the installation of 620 feet of PVC, 8-inch PVC water mains to fully front a lot being redeveloped by Bellevue University, shown in the red line there. The project also includes the conversion of a water main to a water service and will be transferred to Bellevue University. The purpose of this is that the main is no longer needed for the public or other development due to the replatting and putting it in private property within the abandoned Harvell Circle. And so, Mr. Roberts, if you'll scroll down a little bit. a little there. That pigtail going to the north, that's shown there, that's the portion that will be converted to a service. I'd also like to note approval is requested at this time so the water main extension agreement with Bellevue University can be executed ahead of design and bidding for this project. An executed agreement is necessary to work with Bellevue University's Fieldhouse project schedule. I'd like to also state that there are no district costs for this project. That's all I plan to cover and would be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Masa. Personnel, Vice President of Human Resources, Bonnie Savine, will now review employee wage and/or salary increases and ratifications.
Thank you. Good morning. Bonnie Savine, Vice President, Human Resources. Starting with a recap of employee counts, we look at the end of November 2022, and on November 30th of that year, we had 861 regular full-time employees with 3 regular part-time employees for a total of 864. To end this November, there were 887 regular full-time employees and 5 regular part-time employees, bringing us to 892 regular employees. We also had 12 temporary part-time employees. That was comprised of 2 temporary employees and 10 interns. So that was our count at the end of November. Bringing to you a review of jobs that are actively in various stages of the job placement process. We have 3 jobs that are routing for approval as far as submitting the requisition goes, so very early in the process. We also have 6 jobs that are currently posted. 5 of those are external only, and Mr. Roberts has displayed those on the monitors. We also have 1 job that is both open internally and externally. We have 4 jobs that are in the application review or interview stage of the process. And we have 8 jobs with 13 selected candidates that are going through onboarding, and they'll be joining us here in the next few weeks. Now, behind tab 10, you will find the wage and/or salary increases and ratifications letter. Human Resources is recommending the Board of Directors approve wage or salary increases for 5 employees this month. We have 2 OAC employees receiving wage increases due to promotion. We have 2 SPA employees that are receiving increases due to promotion as well. And I would like to take a moment to welcome our new Vice President of Water Operations. That is the 1 SPA ratification on the letter this year. Matthew Hammond comes to us with over 18 years of experience serving local communities and experience in the water industry, and brings a plethora of experience to the district. So welcome, Matt, to our first meeting here. And that is all I have today. Oh, stand up. Any questions?
Where did you work previously?
You can come on up to the microphone.
Good morning. I came here from NextEra Energy, working on their regulated water systems.
That's located where?
Headquarters, Juno Beach, Florida. Systems all over the country.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Judicial and Legislative. Senior Vice President and General Counsel Mark Mendenhall will now present the updated district boundaries.
Yes, good morning, Mark Mendenhall, Senior Vice President, General Counsel. I believe Mr. Roberts has a map that I just gave him this morning, so thanks for his flexibility here. He's going to zoom in, so the blue shaded area would be our existing district boundaries, and then there are 15 subdivisions, either residential, commercial, or industrial, that we have added through the course of the year through the board-approved main extension letters. Those are in yellow with orange crosshatch. They cover subdivisions 1, 2, 4, and 7, and are all within either Douglas or Sarpy County. So after the board approves these new boundaries, then the next steps that I will take, I'll work with Ms. Clayton here, running her first meeting, as well as Mr. Kubat, who's in the audience today, and the district's capable GIS team, Lindsay Dreckman. And we will submit the certifications to the county election commissioners' offices as 2024. You all know we have subdivisions 1, Director Begley, subdivision 2, Director Friend up for re-election. But we will communicate to all 4 counties the updated boundaries, as well as the Nebraska Secretary of State's election commissioner's office. So we'll submit those certifications in accordance with the timelines that they have all set for us. Any questions? Happy to answer. I'm also up here, one more letter here, tab 12, directing your attention. You may recall I was up here, trying to remember, I think I put it in my letter here. I was up here earlier in the year as we discussed potential condemnation for easements and a 20-acre parcel. This is in 168th and Capehart area in Sarpy County. And through the course of over a year of negotiations, we have mutual agreement on both a purchase agreement for the 20 acres and the easement agreements. So what you see here up on the map is a design. This is just a preliminary design, but it does give you a sense of where the 20 acres is at. The 20 acres is along South 168th Street, and that is, I don't even want, I'm looking at Adam here, to the south of Capehart. Okay. I get myself turned around here too often. It's in a little bit a shaded color here. The purpose of the 20-acre site would be to construct, operate a future reservoir and pump station. And this was identified in Water Master Plan and through significant internal discussions to ensure that we've got appropriate facilities to support continued growth in the Sarpy County area, and then the easements as well. So the easements that you'll see there, both along 168th and along Capehart, also support that same continued growth. And within those easements, we'll have a range of large diameter up to, I believe, 36-inch in a couple sections, 36-inch water mains. The blue circles are just identified hydrants that will be placed either along 168th or along Capehart. So with those negotiations with the landowner and their attorney, I'm comfortable saying that this is a positive development and recommending that you all authorize Mr. Doyle to enter into the purchase agreement. The next steps, I believe we've already begun, but next steps would be a due diligence period where we will conduct a boundary survey, an environmental study. I believe those are primarily the efforts that we'll undertake to ensure that this is the right area that we want and that we're not buying something that is not going to work for our needs. And assuming that it would, then I would plan on, as I have on other property purchases, coming back to you, most likely January, maybe February, to seek authorization to close. So all we're asking now is enter into the purchase agreement. Let's complete due diligence, ensure this is the right parcel, and then I'll be back in front of you asking for authorization to close. The dollars were budgeted, previously approved in the CNA letter that was before you all, not at the April, October 2023 meeting. It was also in the 2023 budget as well as now carried over into the 2024 budget. Any questions you may have? No, thank you very much.
Thank you. Right. Senior Vice President and Chief Financial Officer Mark Myers will now present the proposal to authorize drinking water state revolving fund loan.
Good morning. Mark Myers, Senior Vice President, Chief Financial Officer. I'll be discussing the bond resolution that's located behind tab 13 in your materials related to a drinking water state revolving fund loan. At the September board meeting, a plan was presented to replace all lead services in the district's system by the end of 2034. There are about 16,000 lead water service lines in this system, including 12,000 that have been verified and 4,000 that are assumed to contain lead. The estimated cost to replace all 16,000 is about $157 million. And one of the primary sources available to fund this initiative is the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, or DWSRF. Also, during that September meeting, the board authorized management to submit an application to the DWSRF program requesting financing of $40 million to enable us to launch the replacement of these lead services. The application has been submitted and a draft of the loan agreement has been received. A copy of it is included in your materials. Management is currently reviewing this agreement and has engaged Gilmore & Bell to assist with the financing process. And Colleen Duncan from Gilmore & Bell is here with us today in case you have any questions for her. This DWSRF loan will contain some very favorable terms. There's a loan forgiveness provision of up to 62% for eligible projects. The percentage is lower for lead services that are replaced in areas outside of disadvantaged communities, but it also includes 100% loan forgiveness for the inventory verification process, up to $4 million to determine those unidentified services are actually containing lead. Based on our projections, we believe that about 54% of this loan will be forgiven, requiring repayment of $18.5 million. Loan proceeds are only received on a reimbursement basis, so the loan grows as we spend the money. It contains a 0% interest rate and no annual administrative fees, and it will be repaid over a 30-year term that begins in 3 years in December of 2026. This $40 million is the maximum that's currently available to us, and it will provide a significant funding source to help us launch the program. Today, management is requesting the board approve the attached bond resolution, allowing the district to negotiate and execute a loan agreement with the Nebraska Department of Environment and Energy, and to issue a water system revenue note with a stated principal amount not to exceed $40 million. If approved, we'll work with the NDE to finalize all the necessary documents and plan for a closing before the end of this year. Any questions?
How will this interlock with the federal mandate regarding replacement of lead pipes, which is all certainly the right thing to do, but how will they work together, or how will that actually come to pass? I think we're ahead of the game with this, but will there be more money available that won't have to be repaid?
Yeah, in addition to this loan program, we currently do have $10 million that was appropriated through the state of Nebraska for a lead service cash fund. And I know Rick Kubot is actively working on other sources to assist with funding as well. But this loan program will definitely be a key component in this going forward.
What I was actually asking is, with the federal program, and I know I sent you some information that came down about the President Biden's mandate regarding the lead pipes, and maybe that, if you have any information about that.
Yeah, you and I spoke virtually about the new updates, I guess, as a result of the lead and copper rule that's triggering all this. And it's an EPA mandate that we think is coming that will require water utilities across the country to replace lead water services that are owned by our customers, known to have lead or to be lead. We've been planning for this, I would say in earnest, and predicted that this would happen for the last 10 years. Wow. We've been meeting, we've had meetings with the Douglas County Department of Health over the last decade to see, what's their lead mitigation strategies, how can we line up so we're in sync in terms of what we're doing. And the director of the Department of Health attended our community meeting, which was very successful. So this is exactly pointed at the now almost mandate that we're going to have to require those lead services going forward. We hope there's going to be more available, and we've been a little resistant to these state revolving funds because of the strings attached over the years. And it hasn't really been targeted at lead services in our mind. It's been for other things like infrastructure replacement. But in this case, with the parameters that Mr. Myers just outlined, we think it would be not just responsible, but advantageous to engage in, asking for this $40 million. The $10 million that Mark mentioned is a different source of money, and if you want to spend some time on it, we'll call Mr. Kubat up and talk about it, but well, there he is. Suffice it to say, we're optimistic about that, and there'll be some parameters on that that might not result in the full 10 million. But just to put this in perspective, 16,000, how many? 12,000 known, 4,000 probably.
Right.
And when we say probably, in order to really know if there's a lead service line between our main to the stop box to the house, you almost have to dig, well, you don't almost, you have to dig it up and scratch it and find out if it's lead. Plumbers haven't always kept the best records over the years, and these date back quite a ways, and we don't install service lines historically, so 16,000, you want to do the math for me? We're assuming 8,500 a service on average.
Right.
Although I recently spoke with a plumber that does lead service lines almost every day and said that the bids can, for this particular one I was talking about, will cost that homeowner $8,500, but one of their bids was in the low 20,000s. So this is a customers beware. That's my pitch, to say don't just accept the first offer, but I don't know do you want Rick to talk about the 10 million or?
Well, I have to say I really appreciate how forward-thinking M.U.D is on this. I mean, we all recognize that lead is a potentially horrible problem, especially for certain populations, babies and young children. So I think M.U.D really deserves to have a lot of credit for thinking about this and working to replace these. It's going to be no small job to get into this, but I hope I hope with the federal mandate that there's money attached, and it's not another issue like the sewer separation.
We hope so too.
Mark, you said that we won't start paying it back till 2026?
Correct.
Is that right? So between now and 2026, will we have access to funds and nothing in our rates until 2026?
That's correct. We will accumulate the costs associated with replacing these services and doing the inventory inspections that Mark described, and we'll submit those for reimbursement periodically to the state and receive those proceeds back, and there will be no repayment until 3 years from now. That balance will accumulate, and the balance that is outstanding at that time will begin to be repaid.
And that'll be just the principal payment, no interest at all?
Correct.
Great, thank you.
And Mark, this information was provided at the presentation last month, but can you remind everybody, so it's $8,500 for the replacement of the service per house. The part of the city in which this problem persists, can you share what the median household income is in that part of the city, just to give context for the amount of money that the district is investing in this, but also why we're doing it?
Yeah, I may need a little help with that, Rick.
When we met at the public forum, I had that exact dollar amount written down. So now I'm going off of memory.
I think it's $41,000. Does that sound right?
It's in the 40s. That would be somewhere between $40,000 and $46,000 would be the average median household income. And if that's not correct, then I'll send you an email. It's right in that range. So to your point, They exist east of 72nd Street, primarily in North and South Omaha, where folks are on fixed and marginalized incomes and in census tracts that are deemed to be disadvantaged communities. And it's abundantly clear that they're primarily located where folks can ill afford an $8,000 additional bill. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Along those same lines, right now, there is a insurance, if you want to call it that, program that's offered, and that refers to these replacement lines. So what I'm hoping is that as we progress, there'll be less need for that. So there's a little savings for people that do carry this. I mean, I do, because I am afraid of an $8,000 cost out of the blue. But there's so many beneficial aspects to this that M.U.D. deserves a lot of credit.
Agreed, thank you.
Just a clarification, and Mark Doyle, if you could do this. Gwen, I want to make sure people don't think that insurance that could replace a damaged line has any connection to lead. In other words, you can't call them and say, my line's lead, I want it replaced.
Right.
This is only insurance that covers breakage or damage, or it has nothing to do with the lead in the current line, correct?
Absolutely correct.
I just want to make sure people,
Correct.
if they misheard what you said, it's like, well, I buy this insurance and I can get it replaced. No.
Yeah,
Okay.
no. And again, they wouldn't know that there is lead until there's a problem. But yeah, it is for breakage. But with our projection of replacing these pipes, it's going to really be a positive thing.
The only connection is that there is money set aside as a result of that warranty program that goes toward replacing lead services. So we kind of made that part of that. And also we're going to have to analyze going forward, if you do have a known lead service line, should you really even have that, because it's going to get replaced. If it breaks, we're going to fix it, right? So we're looking at every aspect of this.
Just a general question. We know that the area primarily is east of 72nd Street, which is an older area of Omaha, obviously. And would it be safe to assume that a very high percentage of those pipes were all lead, because that's what they used back then?
Yeah, it is. And over the years, many of them have been replaced. Back in the early 80s, I had a service line break. I didn't know it was lead before I ever came here, and it was replaced. So it's now copper, even though it's a 100-year-old house. So yeah, it's just a matter of time why these are in the older parts of our community. Just like we mandated, or the government mandated, no more lead and gas, at some point they mandated no more lead in service lines that feed the house, and obviously we don't have lead in our pipes. Now, the internal piping is another issue. There will be occasions where, we can be the best we can be all the way through the meter, but the internal lines may be galvanized lead still, and, we're here to provide information, but there's only so far we can go with that. So, yeah, thank you. It's a journey. And in the country right now, one of the largest problems with utilities that are all trying to catch up now, you're supposed to know what you have. A lot of them have no idea what they even have. So we did take an inventory starting at 10 years ago, and we know what we have. I could see where if you don't know, you can't manage it, but we knew that we needed to know, and our service folks are very good. We know our systems very well, and we know a lot about the customer-owned part of our system because we are at every premise eventually. So, yeah, we're appreciative of your support. This is difficult. I don't think I finished the math problem, but it's about a $150 million problem in today's dollars.
About 157 million.
I was close.
Estimating, yeah.
Okay. So it's not a small deal, but thank you for that.
Thank you. All right, we will now proceed to the public hearing on the proposed 2024 gas and water budget, proposed water rate, and proposed gas rate. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, yes. So behind tab 14, you'll find the proposed 2024 budget for gas and water. Geneva Patterson, our Director of Rates and Regulatory Affairs, will begin the presentation by discussing the proposed rate changes, and the expected impact on our average residential customer. She'll also provide some information on how our rates compare to others across the country based on survey results. And at the conclusion of Geneva's remarks, I'll return and discuss expenditures and the income statement and cash impacts of the budget. I would point out that the agenda has 3 items under this public hearing. We're basically combining all 3 of those in this presentation during the committee meetings, but when we come to the vote, they'll be done in a certain order. Sarah had actually looked back to last year's meeting, and there was a recommendation that we have the vote on the proposed rate adjustments first, and then the combined whole budget following that. So the order of those will be described and outlined as that process takes place in the regular board meeting. Before I get started, I would just like to express my appreciation to the accounting staff and the rate staff who puts all this together. There's a lot of effort in bringing this budget together over several months, a lot of contributions from others across the district, and it's greatly appreciated. And I am fortunate to have a very talented accounting staff on my team. So with that, I'll turn it over to Geneva to present the proposed gas and water rates.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning. I'm Geneva Patterson, Director of Rates here at the district. And as stated, I will be presenting this year's proposal for the 2024 budget for both gas and water. I'll begin with the gas revenue budget. The 2024 budget contains a 13% decrease to the average residential customer's annual gas bill, which is estimated to be approximately $708 in 2024, compared to $814 that was budgeted in 2023, a decrease of approximately $106. Current projections for a lower cost of natural gas is one reason we can project lower gas charges for our customers in 2024. In addition, the district employs several strategies to lower gas costs for our customers that will be discussed on the next slide. No rate increase to the gas service charge is being requested. However, we are requesting a 2.5% increase to the base commodity charge for all customer classes, as well as an increase to the monthly gas infrastructure replacement charge, 25% a month for the residential customer class, with a like percentage increase to all other customer classes. Rate increases will generate approximately $2.1 million in incremental funds, and the revenue will be used to fund the rising costs of operations, the ongoing investment in our gas infrastructure replacement program, debt service costs associated with the November 23 bond issuance to fund facility-related projects, and the new construction center and remodel of the existing construction center. The changes to margin and infrastructure charges are being requested with an effective date of January 2nd, 2024. Next slide, please. This chart depicts the average residential customer's budgeted gas bills for both 2023 and 2024 based on normal weather, and provides a visual presentation of the data presented on the previous slide. The bar on the left represents the average residential customer's 2023 gas charges. The bar on the right represents 2024's budgeted gas prices. Starting from the top and working our way down, the first 3 sections, yellow, purple, and blue, are all representative of pass-through costs, meaning that the district does not keep this revenue. The revenue is collected from our customers and remitted to others. The yellow section represents the 2% statutory requirement. The district is required by Nebraska statute to remit 2% of all sales of natural gas that occur inside city limits to the city in which the sale occurred. So because we project lower gas costs, that you can see a slight decline from 2023 to 2024. The purple section represents pipeline transportation demand costs, and also you see a slight decline. However, a slight increase, I'm sorry. I would like to point out that the demand cost itself did not increase, but because we are projecting slightly lower volumes, the cost per customer increases slightly, about $1.76 for the average residential customer for the year. The blue section is where we see the decrease in the projected cost of gas that was mentioned in the previous slide. Also mentioned previously, current projections for a lower cost of gas is only one reason we can project lower gas charges for our customers in 2024. The district employs several strategies to lower gas costs for our customers. They include long-term supply contracts, pipeline storage and online storage. Pipeline storage and online storage help to lower the cost of natural gas by minimizing spot market purchases in times of high demand when the cost is typically at its highest. Approximately 74% of the district's natural gas is purchased via prepaid agreements, and those prepaid agreements are expected to save our customers $13 million in 2024 alone. The district also has a long-term transportation and pipeline storage agreement with Northern Natural Gas that is expected to save our customers an additional $17 million in 2024. And so, again, that reflects in about $106 change in that section for our customers. Moving on, the remaining 4 blocks represent the costs that generate dollars to fund district operations. There is no change in the green section, which represents service charge. No service charge increases being requested for 2024. The teal section represents the requested 25-cent a month increase to the average residential customer's gas infrastructure replacement charge. And the requested 2.5% increase to the base commodity charge is represented in the black section, and the annual increase is approximately $2. Peak shaving costs, which are represented in the final block, is projected to be approximately $4 lower due to budgeted spending on peak shaving jobs outside of what's being bonded. And then finally, at the very bottom, you'll notice that the average residential customer is projected to use 2 fewer therms of gas in 2024 compared to 2023's budget, which also contributes to lower projected gas charges. 2023's annual bill was projected in total to be $814, where the 2024 gas budget projects the annual cost to be $708. Next slide, please. So we continue to participate in the Memphis Light Gas and Water's National Comparison Survey for both gas and water. This is the gas survey results being presented here. The charges were calculated for 20 decatherms of gas using gas rates in effect at January 1st, 2023. The black bar represents the district's charges for 20 decatherms January 23. This year, there were 40 participants, and the district has the 7th lowest rates of the 40 participants, which is lower than approximately 83% of all survey participants. The green bar represents charges with updated values for the requested increase to base commodity charge and gas infrastructure replacement without knowing the increases to the that other utilities may implement in 2024. Our ranking remains unchanged. Next slide, please. This year's water budget contains a 4.7% increase to the average residential customer's annual bill. The rate increase is comprised of an 8.5% increase to the commodity component of rates for all customer classes, except wholesale, which will be 9.5%. An increase in the fixed water infrastructure replacement charge of 25 cents is being requested for the average residential customer, with like percentage increases to all customer classes. The rate increases will generate approximately $8.3 million in incremental funds, $7.2 million in commodity and operating revenue, and $1.1 million in infrastructure revenue. The increase will fund rising operating costs and enhanced investment in water infrastructure programs, which include water main replacement, condition assessment, and leak detection. We are also requesting that the proposed water rates be effective January 2nd, 2024. Next slide, please. This chart is a side-by-side comparison of each component of the average residential customers' 2023 and 2024 water charges compared to 2023. The average residential customer was budgeted to pay $417 for 2023, and that's represented by the bar on the left. And in 2024, the average residential customer is being projected to spend $437 of their utility bill. Starting at the top of each bar and working our way to the bottom, the district, again, is required to remit 2% of all water sales that occur inside city limits to the city in which the sale occurs. The yellow section of the top shows us that 2% on the water side, and it increases slightly from 2023 to 2024. The blue section points out the change in the fixed water infrastructure replacement charge. The requested increase, again, was 25 cents a month for the average residential customer, with a like percentage increase to other customer classes. The next two sections, the orange and the teal, reflect the 8.5% increase to commodity charges. The orange representing the water infrastructure component of commodity, which generates revenue for infrastructure, with the teal being the base commodity, which represents revenue for district operations. The very last section, represented in green, is the service charge and highlights that there is no change being requested from 2023 to 2024. Budgeted volumes for this customer class are estimated to remain unchanged compared to last year's projections. Next slide, please. As on the gas side, we also participate in Memphis Light, Gas, and Water's annual water survey. These are the results from this year's survey. The chart depicts water charges billed at 10 CCF, which is 7,480 gallons of water, at rates in effect in January 2023 for residential customers with a 5/8" water meter. The district is represented by the black bar, and again, we are in this on the water survey, 15th out of 40, which is approximately 62.5% lower than the 40 survey participants. The green bar represents the district's placement if today's requested increases are approved, and that changes our ranking from 15th to 16th, lower than 60% of survey participants. Also keeping in mind that that's in comparison to results not knowing what the other participants' annual rate increases might be. Next slide, please. And then finally, this last slide combines the 2024 gas and water budget proposals and reflects the impact to the average residential customer who uses both gas and water. Their combined gas and water charges are projected to decrease from 2023's budget by approximately $87. Or 7%. Keep in mind that the gas cost is dynamic and it fluctuates, so these are all estimates. And that concludes my presentation for rates. Are there any questions?
My only question is, and it's not probably for you, but the water bills, the cities that have lower monthly bills than us, are we constantly looking at what they do differently, and why are they able to deliver water for less than we are? And do we know the reasons, and is there anything we can do to study from those?
Director Kavanaugh, if you don't mind, Ms. Patterson, I want to take a shot at this. And then sure. One of the difficulties with the Memphis survey is that we don't have total access to any particular utility situation compared to ours. But we have a lot of interaction with water utilities across our staff, and as Mark may or may not mention, we interact with Des Moines Water, for example, on a regular basis. Obviously, Lincoln. Could you put that slide back up, the Memphis slide? whoever's pressing the button. What we don't know and what I suspect is between Orlando and Omaha, not geographically, but on this chart, I don't know how much kicking the can down the road there is there. Our position reflects your support of a very serious and responsible infrastructure replacement program. We are reflecting a very responsible and aggressive lead service line program, and I could go on and on and on. I'm thinking somebody's going to sit in my chair down the road and we're going to move way up because everybody else has to do what we've already been doing. That's not fact, that's just my opinion. I know how difficult this is. I read national news on water systems all the time, as I know you, Director Howard, and I interact. I'm thinking there's a lot of that, Director Kavanaugh. That's not a fact, but there may be other things that utilities are doing that we can take advantage of. You know that we're also doing long-range planning. Mr. Mendenhall's presentation earlier shows you that we've been working based on an actual water master plan that you all supported on another reservoir out in Sarpy County. These things we're planning way ahead, and they're all reflected in there. So that's my opinion, more than an opinion. I'm sure I'm partially right on that.
No, that's a great perspective, and thanks for pointing that out. We belong to several different water organizations, and I would hope that there's a lot of information sharing. They're not competitors of ours. We're colleagues, and we should be sharing information. There's no point in keeping any of this proprietary.
That's a great point, and you're right, it's not proprietary. We aren't competing for water sales with other water utilities. Now, we do compete a little bit on the gas side. Maybe not head-to-head, but we do want to make sure that our customers in our service territory, which are sometimes neighbors with customers in other gas locations, but you're making a great point there. We don't compete. We share a lot of information, and if I called Moss up, he'd tell you that we have a group that used to be called the Dirty Dozen, but they've changed their name. It's 12 water utilities that are very similar. To say we interact with them is an understatement. We talk all the time, and I've done that too. So thank you for that question. I don't know if I cut off a question to you, Geneva.
No, I was going to say that we do proactively research other utilities' tariffs, whatever information they have online. And so most of the information is not as transparent as the way we have our rates is, as Mr. Doyle pointed out, we don't know what they're necessarily doing in regard to infrastructure replacement. Sometimes those charges are buried in their rates where we call ours out in an effort to be transparent and to track those dollars and make sure they get, spent where they should be. But yes, we do.
Again, thank you.
As time allows.
Thank you very much.
That's my presentation for the day. Like Mark said, there are a lot of folks who contribute to this, and before I take my seat, I just want to say thank you to Jill Albers. She is the senior rate analyst. She's the other half of our two-person department, and she does a fantastic job. So Jill, I know you're watching. Thank you.
Thank you, Geneva. And to the point about communication with other water companies, I actually once a month meet with 3 other water companies in the region, and we discuss various topics. It started back during COVID and how we were all responding to that, and it's been so successful that we continue to meet and talk about pressing issues that we're all facing. It's been very valuable. I would, before I begin the rest of my comments, just want to highlight that last slide that Geneva presented with the combined projected bill for the average residential customer and the impact of that being a 7% decline for the year, which I think is a positive thing to note. Turning from there, I'll focus my comments on the expenditure side of the budget and a consolidated review of the income statement and the cash flows. So on this first slide here, this just provides some perspective on the size of the district's budget. Combined spending for water and gas is expected to be nearly $569 million. The gas department is budgeted to spend $317 million, with a large percentage of that being the cost of natural gas that's passed through to our customers. On the water side, we're expected to spend nearly $252 million, with capital expenditures making up almost half of that total. Turning to the next slide, I just want to talk about some of the budget assumptions around employee compensation and benefits. These costs are shared across both the water and gas companies. First of all, total payroll costs, including benefits in the 2024 budget, are $154.3 million. That's increasing about 9% from $141.2 million in the 2023 budget. That includes general wage increases of 3.75%, consistent with terms of the labor agreement. Adjustments for OAC employees are effective April 1st, and for SPA employees on March 1st. Labor costs are also impacted by progression increases for employees who are not at the top of their respective pay scales. It also includes additional overtime expense and other staffing changes. And the budget includes funding for up to 17 net full-time staff additions compared to the 2023 budget. We are also planning to fully fund our promises to our employees. We've included district contributions to the pension plan of $12.9 million and $12.3 million to the OPEB plan, which is for retiree medical benefits. These contributions are expected to exceed the actuarially required levels, which has been our practice the past several years, and we do that to intentionally overfund the plans in order to pay down the unfunded liability. So at the end of December of 2022, our pension plan was 94% funded, and by funding more than the required levels, that helps to close that gap to get us closer to 100%. Turning to the next slide, focusing on gas operations, on slide 13. This is a summary of capital expenditures for gas operations. We're planning for spending of $99 million in 2024, which is $3 million lower than we included in last year's budget. Some of the more significant initiatives include $25 million for the gas infrastructure replacement program, and I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a moment. We have $19 million for construction and installation of other gas mains and distribution system assets. And we have $21 million for construction center projects, which includes $19 million for the new construction center and $2 million to begin renovations at the existing construction center. And we just celebrated the groundbreaking for the new construction center, as you can see in the picture there. Those projects will be funded with proceeds from the 2023 gas bonds that were just issued a few weeks ago. We also plan to spend $12 million on motor vehicle purchases as we continue to manage the age of the fleet and business needs. $8 million is budgeted for the digital platform modernization project in our information technology group, and there's $7 million to complete the renovations at the LNG plant, and that is also being bond funded through the issue that was just completed in November. Turning to the next slide, just a little more information about the gas infrastructure program. The budget contains $27 million for the replacement of 40 miles of gas mains in 2024, along with the related services. In 2022, the district issued $60 million of bonds to finance a portion of this gas infrastructure program. There's about $21 million of these proceeds remaining, and we expect to use all of those in 2024 to fund replacement. In addition to that, earlier this year, the district was awarded a $10 million PHMSA grant to help with infrastructure replacement. We anticipate using $5 million of those grant funds in 2024 and the remainder in 2025. The mileage targets will begin to decline over the next few years as we reach completion of this phase of the gas infrastructure program. We're still targeting completion of all the mains by 2027. But beyond that, we do continue spending on gas infrastructure improvements, and one of those next likely phases will be including moving meters from inside of structures to outside. The next slide here presents the income statement for the gas budget. This is compared to the 2023 projection, which represents 9 months of actuals and 3 months of estimate. We're planning for net revenue of $122.2 million, which is up $5.8 million compared to this projection. You can see that next to the top blue arrow. The impact of the lower cost of natural gas that Geneva described can be seen here in the lower gas sales line, the top line there of $17.6 million, and also in the lower cost of gas sold line going down $16.5 million. The net revenue increase of $5.8 million consists of a few items. One you can see there is the $5 million of PHMSA grant proceeds that I mentioned a moment ago. And then in addition to that, there is about $1 million of increase included for the 2.5% increase to the margin component of rates, $1.4 million increase in infrastructure charges, with about 1.2 of that associated with the increase to the gas infrastructure replacement fee, the remainder being driven by customer growth. Those increases are partially offset by assuming that we'll return to normal volumes in 2024. Volumes are up about 15%, included as reflected in that 2023 projection, so that's offsetting some of those increases that I just mentioned. On the expense side, we're expecting total budget expenses to increase $7.8 million, as shown next to that lower blue arrow. Within this number, operating expenses are expected to increase $3.8 million. That's primarily due to increased payroll and benefits of $5.2 million. And in addition, there was a one-time credit lowering the expenses in 2023 for insurance proceeds related to the construction center settling insurance claim. And so that results in an increase comparing year over year. And then those are partially offset by some one-time expenses in 2023, including $2.1 million for the purchase of heating equipment for a town border station. The bond issuance costs of $600,000 in 2023 were related to that November issue. We don't anticipate any bonds in 2024, so there are no expense for that here. And the increase in interest expense of $3.5 million is also related to those new bonds that we just issued. Turning to slide 16, this shows a presentation of the cash flow projection for 2024. We're starting the year with a strong cash position. We expect to end 2023 with $178.1 million of cash, representing 297 days cash on hand, and we're expecting that to increase slightly, up $3.7 million during 2024, resulting in an ending cash balance of $181 million. Trying to read my notes there. The chart just shows the ins and outs of that, the greens being the increases and the reds being the decreases. Net income contributes to additional cash. Reducing net income is depreciation expense, so we add that back to get to the cash change. Those are offset by spending on capital expenditures and debt services, bringing us down to that ending cash balance, which would represent 324 days cash on hand. Just turning to the next slide, we will take a quick look at the debt outstanding on the gas side of the business. We're showing a total of $219 million at the end of 2023. We're not anticipating any additional new debt on the gas side of the business over the next 5 years, so that would decline each year as principal payments are made. And on the next slide, you can see the annual debt service requirements for debt on the gas operations increasing in 2024 because of the new bonds that were issued. And those were issued, as I mentioned, to fund the construction center projects and completion of the LNG plant renovations. Turning next to the water side of the business, focusing on the capital expenditures here, we're budgeting for $126 million of capital expenditures, which is $5 million lower than the 2023 budget. Some of the more significant items include $25 million for the replacement of water mains under the Infrastructure Replacement Program, $52 million for construction of other water mains and system improvements, which will mostly be funded by developer contributions. The budget also includes $32 million for capital improvements at the 3 water treatment plants, $15 million for Florence, $12 million at Platte South, and $5 million at Platte West. The majority of those projects will be funded with proceeds that remain from the bonds issued in October of 2022. So a little over a year ago, we issued bonds in the Water Department to fund system improvements, and we have funds remaining there to use for these capital expenditures. The budget also includes $6 million for additions and replacements to construction machines, and the Southwest Reservoir that Mark Mendenhall discussed earlier in the meeting also is budgeted for $4 million. That includes land acquisition and some design costs related to construction of that reservoir. The next couple of slides talk about the Water Infrastructure Program. We continue our efforts to replace aging, high-consequence water mains. The budget includes $31 million for water main replacement, targeting 17 miles in 2024, which is up from 16 miles planned in 2023. We assume an average cost per mile of $1.8 million, but we're continuing to pursue ways to reduce that cost, and the Murphy contract that Adam discussed earlier on pipe bursting helps to contribute to lowering that cost per mile. In addition to water main replacement, we're continuing to expand our risk mitigation efforts, including condition assessment, leak detection, and data analysis. For example, we're expanding the condition assessment program to 6 miles of mains next year, up from 4 miles in 2023. And we've included about $1.1 million in the budget to fund that assessment program. Turning to slide 22, this is a 5-year projection of spending on the infrastructure program. We plan to reach a combined total of 25 miles mitigated by 2025 and are projected to spend nearly $160 million over the next 5 years on infrastructure replacement and mitigation. With nearly 3,200 miles of water mains in our system, including about 1,200 cast iron mains, the infrastructure replacement program is an important initiative that will be ongoing for many years to come. This next slide provides a little more information on the lead service replacement program. As we discussed, we're estimating the total cost of the program to be $157 million to replace those 16,000 services. The funding sources, as mentioned, include the $10 million that we're seeking through the state appropriation known as the State Lead Service Cash Fund, and then the state revolving fund loan that was mentioned that we are currently seeking. We're projected to ramp up to about 1,500 services replaced starting in 2025, and over this next 5 years would be spending about $63 million on the program. Turning to slide 24, this is the income statement view of the water operations. We're expecting total revenue of $173 million, which is an increase of 8.1 compared to the current projection. Water sales on the top line are about flat, increasing only $200,000. This is largely due to the strong water sales that we've experienced this year that are offsetting the rate increase that's been proposed. The rate increase would generate about $7.2 million of operating revenue in the gas sales line, but returning back to normal water usage in 2024 would offset that by about $7 million, netting out to $200,000 increase in that line item. The infrastructure charge going up $1.2 million, largely due to the proposed increase in the water infrastructure replacement fee. And here you can see a new line item for the grant revenue. This is a combination of monies that are expected through that state lead service cash fund and the loan forgiveness portion of the DWSRF loan. That's $6.2 million. Turning to the expenses, we're projecting, I'm sorry, Jay, get this, but yeah, thank you. We're expecting an increase of $17.1 million with a $20.1 million increase to the operating and maintenance expense. That appears to be a large increase. One factor driving that is the fact that we have $7.2 million in there for the replacement of lead service lines. Because the district doesn't own those service lines, we don't include those in the capital expenditures budget. They run through the operating and maintenance expense through the income statement here. So that's $7.2 million of the increase. In addition to that, there's about $7.1 million related to increased payroll and benefits costs. Also, in the 2023 projection, we have a credit of $1.8 million for insurance proceeds, also related to that construction center claim, and we did receive some insurance proceeds related to the 2019 flood, both of those reducing the projection in the current year. Interest expense is declining $800,000. We don't have any new debt in 2024 planned here, so that's the pay down to the principal is reducing the interest that we would pay as well. And the decrease in the other expense line item there of 2.4 includes an anticipated reimbursement of some costs through an existing outstanding insurance claim we're expecting to receive in 2024. The net result here is net income of $38.2 million, which is down $9.1 million compared to the 2023 projection. Now turning to the cash flow slide here, we also are starting with a strong cash position on the water side of the business due to the higher sales and some deferrals of capital spending. The unrestricted cash balance is expected to be $110.6 million at the end of 2023, increasing, or I'm sorry, we would actually plan to spend down about $10.1 million of that cash in 2024, resulting in an ending cash balance of $100.5 million, or 317 days cash on hand. The next slide shows the outstanding debt on the water side. Again, we issued bonds in October of 2022. None are planned again until 2025. We have long-term capital improvement plans in place for all three of the water treatment plants, as well as funding of other capital improvements related to our water master plan, including the Southwest Reservoir and then future reservoir in the Northwest part of our service territory. We typically bond about 3 years of spending each time we go out for an issuance, and so the next bond issuance would be expected in 2025, shown there at about $113 or $114 million. And then we would anticipate doing that again probably in 2028. We've just got a placeholder there for a small amount for spending in that year, but would likely be sized to fund spending over the next 3 years, and we'll size that more accurately when we get to that point in time. And then finally, the last slide would show the debt service requirements for that debt. Currently, our debt service for principal and interest payments is $25.4 million. And it would grow as we issue new bonds in the future years. So that concludes the presentation of the proposed budget. We certainly appreciate your consideration, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Public comment. Are there members of the public in attendance today who would like to address the board?
Go ahead.
Good morning.
Hello.
Thanks for having us today. My name is Chrissy McLaren, Accounts Payable, and this is Angela Cherek, Director of Administration for Shadow Ridge Country Club. We're here representing Shadow Ridge, its team, and our membership today. So what we'd like to do is bring your attention to two important matters that are of really utmost concern to us: the high cost and potential increase in the price of water with really no apparent end in sight. And second, the equity in pricing and categorization for our account. From 2020 to 2023, during peak season, our water rates have increased nearly 20%. So for a small business, this cost and the continued proposed increases are unsustainable. Our W4 categorization means that we pay more for water than any other customer classification. The potential increase being proposed upwards of 8% today is significant. We had a rate meeting last week with Megan Walter and Geneva Patterson, and we learned that this is not the end of the potential proposed increases that are substantial. The majority of private golf courses in Omaha utilize well water. We're a good customer for M.U.D. We'd like to and prefer to continue purchasing water from M.U.D., but we have to figure out an equitable and stable pricing structure that's affordable for our business. Our W4 designation for the golf course water usage is categorized and priced as though it's an optional, frivolous service that we utilize for aesthetic purposes. However, our water usage is functional and it's necessary for our business to produce the product we sell, just as it is for an industrial plant. So having the playable golf course, the tees, fairways, and greens are the product that we sell to our membership, and water is a key ingredient of this. During our peak season this year in 2023, we paid almost $33,000 for the first 10,000 CCFs used in a billing cycle. W2, which are commercial or industrial customers, would have paid $21,483 for their first 10,000 CCFs of water. And comparing that to like a wholesale customer, they would have paid $13,000 for the water for that first 10,000 CCFs. So extrapolating that out in 2023, if we were categorized as a large volume industrial client, we would have been billed about $80,000 less year to date for the same water. So as you can see, that categorization makes a real meaningful impact to our business. So we suggest that we should be recategorized entirely as a W-2 business since we are purchasing water for commercial and industrial purposes. Ironically, this is how our clubhouse is categorized. So believe it or not, we pay less to water the grass in the front lawn of our clubhouse than to water our tea, which is our actual product that we're selling. So today, we're here to ask for two things. Your careful consideration to minimize, if not completely decline, a price increase for 2024, or second, a fair recategorization of our business as a W-2 designation. So we appreciate your time today, and thank you for the consideration. I'll follow up with an email, and I think you have our contact information as we reached out before, and we'd be happy to follow up and answer any questions, but we appreciate your time.
From what I understand, the major difference is that your water that you use in the clubhouse and your lawn is year-round, but the golf course itself is only during the peak season. And I think that is probably why you're classified differently than a commercial business that produces year-round, if that makes any sense. There is no peaks and valleys and so forth, so the cost of providing water is pretty flat for a major business customer versus a peak season customer. And before I dig a hole any deeper here, Mark, maybe you could answer some questions better than I can.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for coming to the meeting and expressing your concerns and providing information. And I want to thank the team for reaching out. One thing we don't ever want the board to hear is that we're not communicating. So for you to say that there's no end in sight, we are, we're running a water system that is not like a normal business. In other words, my analogy would be if you were to design a golf course for every foursome that could ever be there at any point in time, it would be a different course than any courses in Omaha, because occasionally you have to say, no, we have no tee times. We can't say that. We design our system and we use different rate classes based on industry-proven criteria. And one of the criteria for this W4 or sprinkling rate class is that your usage is 3 times your base load. 3 times in the summer months, and those months are, I'm not going to look for that, but basically, the summer months is 3 times your base load in the winter. That, I just want to address the fact that we can't just take one customer that is absolutely a W4 sprinkling customer, which is the golf course, not the clubhouse. And we have about 3,600 plus customers in this category. It's very clearly an irrigation factor. For us to provide the water to irrigate that our customer needs, along with the base load, you mentioned a commercial industrial load. For example, the packing plants. We're in constant communication with the packing plants. They use a lot of water and they have a rate that we can plan on. When we build our system, we know that Greater Omaha, Pack, Nebraska, they use that water all year long to produce food. So that's the fundamental difference there. You are an irrigation customer. Do you use wells? I thought maybe you do augment your supply with a well. You do not. Have you ever?
We do have wells on property that fill up our smaller ponds and things of this nature. I know at one point when we were drilling those wells some time ago, we did so with the possibility potentially of having to use those at some point, but the quality of water and us wanting to be an M.U.D customers kept us from doing so. But at some point, it's just becoming unsustainable for our rates to increase at the rate that they are year to year, 8.5% potentially. And so for us, having a product, and in our mind, it seems though this category was made specific to a type of golf course. And if greens, if brown greens that didn't require much water would provide us a product that made sense for our members to play good golf on the course, then we would certainly do that. That's unheard of, but it is an ingredient in what we are selling, in our mind, similar to a industrial plant that's functioning consistently throughout the year. We function consistently, it's just seasonal. So for us, it is very much an ingredient, just as they would be. So that is why we're here to speak on this today.
Okay, and our objective here is not to dispute your business.
Sure.
We're proud to have you as a customer. We're happy to have you as a customer. For the board's information, our top water users would be the City of Omaha, that runs many golf courses, Kellogg's. Number 3 is probably one of the packing plants. No, not probably, it is. Right, Mark? We just went over that. So I just want to be sure that the board knows that any information you receive may or may not be valid. The $86,000 figure is not accurate. It would be $30,000 or $40,000 less if they were commercial, which they're not. That's not a criticism. That's just we were let in on that information, and we appreciate it. And I was also asked over the course of the week whether we discourage well usage. We have no opinion on that. As long as they're legitimate wells and that's your business, I just want to be clear that we don't encourage or discourage. Not at all. Sure. But we do know that others do use wells, and that's great. And I don't even know why we would know. That's none of our business. So, I mean, it isn't. So I just want to be clear that we are not just putting customers in a certain class because, it's not willy-nilly. It's on tried and true, long time. And this is the reason we built our third water plant. This is one of the reasons. Reliability certainly was a reason, but the reason we had to have a third water plant on the western section, which, upwards of $300 million in all the bond, it's so we can have businesses like this in our community. If we only had flatline water customers, we wouldn't need to be able to produce upwards of 300 million gallons a day. And by the way, this is a great time to remind the board that even though we can supply we supply an average of anywhere from 80 to 90 million a day year round, but that's just an average. Our peak day, when we're really in a drought situation, which always seems to be during the summer, when we enjoy activities like golf, our peak hour is what we designed for, and our peak hour might be when everyone's watering. That's why we're trying to ask our customers in earnest to modify your watering schedules, which is easier said than done, would be, I don't know, what's our peak hour? Somebody help me out. Masa? 388. So we have to supply the equivalent of 388 million gallons if you took that hour of watering and extrapolated it over the course of the day or the year. Now, why is that important? We have to design for that. We can't tell people, no, we don't have water for you. We can't. We don't say we don't have room for you because we're full. And that, it's just a great opportunity to, we looked at our infrastructure replacement. We're looking at all the things we have to do, and this is just simply the responsible operation of a water utility in the metropolitan area. I apologize that it's concerning, but I am happy to know that you've been communicated with and that you know what we're trying to do, and I hope you appreciate some of the presentation here. It's hard for this board to support on blind faith what management recommends for our water system, and that would include rate setting, which is one of the most difficult things to do as an elected board member. But we have a responsibility and an obligation to bring it forward and invite this kind of public discourse.
Mark, can I just clarification question? What I thought I heard you say was that the highest classification, W4, correct? That's
correct.
The highest Mark Myers W4.
And wholesale.
Got it. We have 3,600 customers that
Did I
either
state
use or potentially could be in that classification?
Yeah. It's surprising, right?
No, I just wanted to make sure. So maybe it's 3,500, maybe it's 37. It's over 3,000, and it sounds like it's well over 3,500. So if this board were to take some action, and I'm not suggesting they are, I'm just trying to lay out, if they were, as a group, we decided to take some action, that would have to be equitably applied to all 3,500 W4, not just a one-off or a two-off. So the impact on our system, as you just pointed out, is significant. The ability to provide that is significant. So to reduce would also be significant, because it would only be fair if I'm assuming my colleagues on the board would feel the same way. You don't just do it for a select group. No matter what they provide or how laudable or how great their service are, you need to be fair about it. So that's one of the things I was wanting to know is what's the total number? And I wanted to make sure I understood it.
Yes, for the W4 sprinkling class of customers, there's about 3,600 total customers in that group.
And to further seek clarification on top of Dave's point, of those 3,600, are all golf courses included in the W4 category?
I believe that's true, and it would be dependent upon them meeting that 3 times usage in the summer versus the winter usage pattern, and I would assume that most or all golf courses would meet that criteria and would fall into that rate category.
Thanks, Mark.
And then
I know I pay more when I turn my irrigation on at home if it's longer than normal, if the weather is really dry and it's, I know my rate goes up.
We're thinking the same. I want to also mention that the residential customer we have an inclining block rate. That was put into place long before Platte West was built. That's a responsible approach to setting rates. Not everyone does that. You've heard of small water systems that don't even meter their water. Well, we have an inclining block rate, so the water to live for the residential customer is in the first, I'm not going to try to say the numbers, and we always say CCF. I've been trying to get away from that, Director Friend. You and I used to say, can you tell us in gallons? 1 CCF, which is 100 cubic feet, a centrum cubic feet, is 748.1 gallons. So we try to do the math and tell you what that is, but yeah, your first X amount is this, and I think our friends from Shadow Lake know that there's a base load, and you kind of cited that, and we appreciate that. There's a second tier. What did I say?
Shadow Lake.
Shadow Lake. I live in Sarpy. It's okay. Yeah, Shadow Ridge. Yeah. So does Mark. Where's he at? Second tier, more expensive. Third tier, even more expensive. So what I would say to you, Director Friend, is if we did do something, we'd like to describe what the criteria is and talk about the criteria and why it's 3 times the base load. Oftentimes, a sprinkling meter is larger than a residential meter. Yeah, a lot of shaking heads. Sometimes you wouldn't be able to generate 3 times your base load if you didn't have a larger meter. That's a triggering factor also. But I want to tell you that as long as I've been here for over 30 years now involved with M.U.D, I'm really pleased that we can supply the water that we supply. We don't have a supply issue. We have a management pressure moving water around, and this is just one of those things where if you were in another city in the United States, you might be suffering from lack of supply, and you wouldn't be able to run a business like this. So I never want to understate that advantage that we have. You're welcome to come up. I don't want to, this isn't an argument. This is just providing information.
Along that same lines, I'm glad you're here to talk about rates and not reliability. I think you saw the presentation today. We spend a lot of money putting infrastructure in, making sure that we provide safe and reliable service. And so I'm glad that we are able to provide the water to you during the peak times, but your unique needs are different than baseload customers, and I hope you understand that.
No, we appreciate you letting us come up and voice our concern. Obviously, that is what we're here to do, and we appreciate all that you do, and we appreciate being a customer of M.U.D and all that you do too in these meetings. We've never participated in one of these before, and we know there's a lot of thought that goes into every detail that you're working through, but hopefully you'll take our concern into consideration when reviewing the increased cost for this upcoming year. That was our goal.
And I think I saw somewhere, I read somewhere where we've offered to come out and help you look for leaks or something like that that can help minimize your usage and waste or something like that.
Yes.
We're willing to provide help wherever we can.
Sure, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, our staff is very good at that. I'm sure you will agree after. Very good.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That's what I thought. I saw you poised there. And anybody else? This is the point for public comment. Yes, please state your name.
I'm Walter Conrad, and I know you're working on budget and all that. I was here at the November board to elevate some safety concerns I had and to make some recommendations on change in policy, and agreed to meet with Mr. McGowan and management on November 6th, which did. And I agree that there's some of my recommendations that the city, the various municipalities would have to make changes, but some are in the purview of M.U.D. I've been, since 2016, M.U.D has been at my property apartment for multiple times with carbon monoxide over 9 parts per million. From my safety background in working in transportation to the oil and gas and pipeline industry, when it's over 9 parts per million, it would be considered a near miss. They have in safety accidents, illnesses, and near misses. And when there's a near miss, you have to determine the proximate, the root cause of each of those and take action. On June of 2021, the Omaha Fire Department and M.U.D responded to my apartment building with 24 units and multiple units over 9 parts per million. And my understanding that none of the 24 units had an M.U.D furnace permit. So I asked at the meeting on November 6th, 3 questions. How many furnaces, natural gas furnaces that are serviced by the district natural gas have the furnace permits. 2, how many do not have? And the third question is how many of the calls that the district makes when responding when carbon monoxide is over the legal limit of 9 parts per million do not have an M.U.D. furnace permit. And the response was, and this will be one of the recommendations, is that with the current district database, it would take multiple people and hundreds of hours and probably not able to come up with the recommendation. So I'll give you the basic outline of the 4 recommendations, and they're in greater detail, and I'll leave that today. Recommendation 1, a database to mirror the www.omahapermits.com, the rentals, parcel time, and we did a demo on November 6th. Recommendation 2, where to shut off the natural gas when there's carbon monoxide, and I'd recommend that the gas meters only and the relights to be done by district only. And the overriding thing with these recommendations is that the district has policies and procedures of voluntary compliance. It does not require an owner HVAC contractor to provide proof or determination of root causes and work done in compliance with manufacturer's manuals and in compliance with all municipal ordinances. Recommendation 3, establish a district furnace permit procedure and registration of open flame heating devices, as well as, the district will not inspect a furnace that is over 5 years of age. And in transportation, the DOT requires all tractors and trailers, regardless of age, be inspected every year with criteria set by the DOT. So recommending guidelines for HVAC contractors to inspect furnaces over 5 years of age. And recommendation 4, when there's vegetation and/or trees blocking access to natural gas meters, to set some policies of graduated fines and procedures there. So I'm glad to leave that, and thanks for the opportunity. And I want to personally thank all the district personnel that have responded at all hours of night when my carbon monoxide detector has, activated, and on the June of 2021 to call the fire department because I was woozy. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any board members have any further comments?
I have one question, just to follow up for Jim Knight. Jim, could you give us a real quick recap where we stand with our inventory at the LNG plant and the propane plant as we head into hopefully the winter, cold winter?
Good morning, Jim Knight, Vice President Gas Operations. We are in good shape storage-wise. I can't get into too many details because that's covered by federal regulations, but I'd be more than happy to chat offline. But needless to say, we are in good shape going into the winter. In storage levels nationally are about 10% above last year. That's one of the primary reasons why we're seeing the lower gas prices we are. Production's been up most of the year, so that's led to higher storage levels. So,
you can't discuss the levels? You
No,
can't say
I
they're
can't-
full. The
I
numbers,
can't get
but-
into specifics now.
but they're full and ready for...
They're in good shape.
They're in good shape. Okay, I'd like to talk to you at break.
That would be great. I look forward to that.
Jim, something that might be interesting when you have time, which I don't know how much you have, to go back from the beginning of LNG storage and how much money we've invested in the construction of it and the upkeep over the years versus how much in savings that has saved us throughout those years, so we can evaluate the investment of LNG versus not having it. And it's probably a good news thing that we could share with the public that look what we've done. This is what we've invested. This is the outcome. If that stuff is even available now. When was the LNG plant? That was before me.
It was built in 1975.
Okay, so I don't know if that stuff's even available, but it'd be interesting to see versus how much money we've saved by storing it.
I do have a spreadsheet that goes back to 2000. So that keeps track of all of the capital investments, our O&M, and the gas costs, as well as pipeline demand savings that I can share with you. So for the last 25 years, I do have a record of that.
That'd be great whenever you get a chance.
All right, will do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark Doyle, President. Director Kavanaugh, I'm glad you asked. I'm not going to draw this out, but one of the reasons our gas bill will be 13% less this year for our customers is not just the cost of gas. And I know Ms. Patterson said this in her presentation, but I want to underscore it. It's also our ability to hedge with our LNG, a big battery, if you want to look at it that way, our propane air plants, our prepaid contracts, and our firm supply from Northern, which has a cap. It's been a tremendous savings. When we use those numbers like Mr. Knight often uses, and we say 14 million a year or 17 million a year, knowing that each % increase in rates might be 600,000. I always got to look to Mark, somewhere in there. It's a big deal, and it's why our rate comparison and our bill comparison to other is considerably lower. It's not just the cost of gas, and nothing brought that more to our attention than that polar vortex.
And when other gas firms ask us, how can you do this for less money than we can? Well, it doesn't just happen today. It takes foresight and planning into the future.
Absolutely.
And if you're not willing to make that investment now, you're not going to realize the benefits of that anytime soon.
I agree, and we're going to have some major advantages when that LNG plant is totally renovated, where we can vaporize and liquefy simultaneously. And we're going to be working on the next contract, Jim, and we're going to try to keep it going. And yeah, you're right. And we're a public utility. I'm not running from that. It's an advantage. We make an in lieu of payment to cities, and we have an advantage, and I think the public reaps the benefits of that. Thank you. Thanks to the whole team for the budget presentation. There's a lot of us involved, and every time I wake up in the middle of the night, I've got another email from Mr. Myers, so he needs a little holiday time. Thank you.
You actually can sleep.
Not that well. I think we,
Okay.
yeah, we have that in common.
Anybody, other board members? If seeing none, this meeting is now concluded. We will reconvene in 10 minutes for the regular board meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'm Tanya Cook, Chairperson of the Metropolitan Utilities District Board of Directors, and I'd like to welcome you all to the regular monthly board meeting this morning, December 6th, 2023. The meeting is being live streamed from the boardroom at M.U.D headquarters building located at 7350 World Communications Drive, and a recording of this meeting will be uploaded to the M.U.D website after the meeting's conclusion. Roll call.
Sidzik.
Here.
McGowan.
Here.
Howard. Here. Kavanaugh.
Here.
Begley.
Here.
Cook.
Here.
Friend.
Here.
I'd like to advise all those in attendance that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is available on the wall in the back of the boardroom. And now for those who wish to participate, we will recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Approval of the minutes for the committee meetings and regular board meeting for November 1st, 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard. Yes. Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Capital expenditures, Director Friend.
Thank you. This item was discussed in committee. I move approval as outlined in the memo from Andy Melville dated November 29th.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard. Yes. Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Acceptance of contracts and payment of final estimates, Director Friend.
Thank you. Also discussed in committee, I move approval in the memo by Adam Gartner dated November 20th.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard. Yes. Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Murphy Pipeline Water Infrastructure Contract Partnership Recommendation for 2024, Director Friend.
Thank you. Also, this was discussed in committee, and I move approval on the contract extension as outlined in the memo from Adam Gartner dated November 15th.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard. Yes. Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Bids on materials and contracts, Director Friend.
Thank you. Also discussed in committee, I move approval as outlined in the memo from Sherry Lightfoot dated November 22nd.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard. Yes. Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Main extensions, Director Friend.
Thank you. This was also discussed in committee, and I move approval as outlined in the memo from Masa Nia dated November 28th.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Wage and/or salary increases and ratifications, Director Begley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for approval of the wage and/or salary increases and ratifications as discussed in committee this morning and outlined in Bonnie Savine's memo dated November 21st, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard. Yes. Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Updated district boundaries, Director Kavanaugh.
Under tab 11, this was discussed in committee, the updated district boundaries, and management is recommending that the board adopt and approve the updated boundaries that were depicted in the attached map that was discussed.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Purchase and easement agreement, Sarpy County Southwest Reservoir from G. Schrum. Director Kavanaugh.
Thank you. This is under tab 12 again. This purchase agreement was discussed in committee, and management is requesting authority to execute the purchase agreement for the 20-acre Southwest Reservoir site and the associated easements. I move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Proposal to authorize drinking water state revolving fund loan. Director McGowan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to approve the proposed drinking water state revolving fund loan resolution as discussed in committee and outlined in the memo dated November 29, 2023 from Mark Myers.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Proposed water rate and resolution. Director McGowan.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2024 water rate resolution as presented in the committee meeting and discussed this morning, and also outlined in the memo from Mark Myers dated November 30th, 2023, found behind tab 15.
Second.
Any discussion? I'm going to echo thanks for people showing up and saying something out loud and call for a roll call.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Proposed gas rate and resolution. Director McGowan.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve the gas rate resolution as presented in committee today and fully explained in the memo from Mark Myers dated November 30th, 2023.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Okay, going to the approval of the 2024 gas and water budget resolution with Director McGowan.
Is this item number 14?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2024 gas and water budget resolution as presented and discussed in the committee meeting this morning.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
All right, recognizing Jack Frost resolution. Director Kavanaugh.
Thank you. Under item 17 is a resolution honoring our late colleague, Jack Frost. And I'd like to read the resolution. Whereas the Metropolitan Utilities District of Omaha is a political subdivision and municipal corporation organized and governed by the laws of the state of Nebraska with its principal place of business in Douglas County, Nebraska. Whereas Jack Frost served on the board of directors for 36 years, first elected in 1986. Whereas Jack Frost was reelected 5 times and honorably served as a chairperson and vice chairperson multiple times throughout his tenure. Whereas Jack Frost was a second-generation board member, his father, Frank Frost, having served on the board of directors for 42 years. If you're doing the math, that's 78 years. Whereas Jack Frost's expertise in real estate and general business contributed to numerous accomplishments, including the addition of the Platte West Water Treatment Plant, the introduction of CNG as a vehicular tool, upgrades to the LNG facility, and a commitment to enhancements to the gas and water distribution systems. Whereas this resolution pays tribute to Jack Frost's appreciation for collegiality, mutual respect, and humor during his many years of service on the board. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Metropolitan Utilities District of Omaha honors Mr. Frost's service to this board and his commitment to Metropolitan Omaha. Is this something that we vote on? Or is this just added to the? I would, at this time, make a motion that we approve this resolution and let this be spread among the minutes of the committee meeting minutes for referral.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd just like to say thank you, Tim, for doing that. Jack was certainly a unique individual, and we all enjoyed working with him, and we certainly miss him. Thank you for doing that.
All right. Anything else? Roll call.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
All right. Other matters of district business for discussion. Do any board members have any further comments at this time?
Two things really quick, Madam Chair. The Heat the Streets Walk and Run for Warmth is coming up in March, and the date escapes me, but this will be a public service announcement between now and March. So my wife Rebecca and I are the co-chairs this year, and it's Saturday, March 2nd at Exarban. So it's a great event. I know there's always a great turnout from M.U.D. folks. The second thing I want to mention is welcome to Sarah Clayton for officially succeeding the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Mary Mancuso. Great job today, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. Anything else from board members?
I want to congratulate Mark Myers and his staff for a terrific presentation for the annual budget. You had some big shoes to follow, and I think you fit those shoes just fine. So thank you.
Good. All right. Any other members of the public present who'd like to address the board? All right. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
No discussion? Roll call.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
We're adjourned.